George Clooney and Brad Pitt's new movie, Wolves, is on Apple TV Plus September 27th.
That's where I want you to be now.
So if you want to see George Clooney and Brad Pitt, go to Apple TV Plus.
You got to start the story there.
Or if you want to see Brad Pitt and George Clooney, go to Apple TV Plus.
I am enjoying the show.
And if you want to see their new movie, Wolves,
You can't do it, I'm going to help you out. I can do it, so do it.
definitely go to Apple TV Plus.
Admit it, it's cool. Okay, fine, it was very cool.
Wolves, streaming September 27th on Apple TV Plus. Rated R.
Looking to invest? Start your journey by exploring exchange-traded funds with Global X ETFs. Exchange-traded funds, or ETFs for short, create baskets of stocks, bonds, and other assets that you can buy in a single trade. Global X specializes in ETFs that track emerging trends, like the rise of artificial intelligence, as well as strategies aimed to generate income potential. Visit globalxetfs.com to discover how you can get started.
This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods: time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and of course, the Auburn family. Because it's about family members, we got to get them together in a very special place today. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis. Alongside me, as always, is Austin Scott, live from the campus of Auburn University.
We're here. It's a different setting than our usual home backdrops, or even together in my home backdrop. So
you know, there is something to be said about, you know, the E2C Network headquarters, your headquarters with your nice, beautiful stuff that you have all over the wall.
Yeah.
And then the other wall we won't talk about that I also enjoy.
Correct.
If you see behind us, if you're watching live right now, we are obviously on the campus of Auburn University, the loveliest village on the plains, something that we have wanted to do for quite some time. So for episode 94, the Brett Edens episode,
there you go.
We're here.
We're here. 94, an odd number to make it such a monumental episode to be on campus, but we're here, and it's a beautiful day. We couldn't have asked for better weather to be out here.
Right.
With clear skies, and it's a little warm, but we're here on a very special Auburn weekend.
We are, and obviously this is our first time pulling this off. It is an odd number to do this type of thing on, but we're giving this a whirl because we might do this on another special episode. We'll never know. We'll see how our schedules and all that stuff line up. But we have to do a trial run at this. So whether you are watching live, the video portion, or you're listening to the audio portion, do give us feedback on how it sounded, how it looked, all that good stuff. This is the first time for us, but we like to give you guys some special things from time to time. Let's get right into it. Just because we're on campus doesn't mean we don't handle business. Auburn potpourri.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the first thing. SEC Nation coming back to town.
Yeah.
At least once a year they come back, right?
I think they try to. I think we've seen them try to hit every school in the league. And this is a big one. This is a good one for them to come to, with Oklahoma making their first SEC road game, had their first SEC home game last night. So yeah, we've talked about at length about how important this game is, just regardless of what the season would look like, the grand scheme of the SEC and a new member in the league. So it's cool to see SEC Nation kind of use that as a similar popularity level and magnitude. Did they say they'll be over by?
I'll be honest, I didn't dive into it outside the announcement, but where they have always been is where the what is it called?
The wellness
kitchen thing, right there, that beautiful little creek area.
It's like it was perfectly made for it.
Almost. Now it's got a little bit more overgrown over there. It's not overgrown, but taller.
Yeah.
So they are a raised stage. So I wonder if that's going to affect it at all. Maybe the Auburn Horticulture Facilities team can get in there real quickly and handle some of these things. But Oklahoma coming here is a big event. No matter how you feel about the Auburn team, we will get into it. This is a big moment this upcoming weekend, and obviously this makes a lot of sense for SEC Nation to come to town.
Yeah.
And Tebow, I think he'll be here. I think he's still part of that crew.
I think so. I haven't watched that crew in a while, but
Marty and McGee.
There's plenty out there.
Is Laura Rutledge still?
I would think Laura Rutledge, Paul Feinbaum, they're all still there. Hey, I'm just being honest. You're probably not getting game day this year, so maybe head out there and take in the festivities.
You need to enjoy it while you have it. If something, and I'll be honest with you, I personally had, and I said this today on Twitter, in some ways, I almost enjoy this more because it's almost not a guarantee, but they know Auburn people show up for this. So
it's a little more intimate.
Right. And if we get good weather, obviously it'll be a good showing. So we'll definitely talk about that next week. I think we got to talk some basketball because it'll make people happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what also makes people happy is charity and doing good things with the basketball court as well. Auburn versus FAU for a exhibition charity event. This is, I won't say unheard of, but it is not a usual case in terms of it being allowed. I think there's some rules against exhibition matchups and things like that. Bruce Pearl does it again with his marketing ability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, if FAU a step up in the competition of normally what you see for an exhibition, so he's already adding more to that non-conference slate of being difficult. You know, I think it's going to be really exciting. This is not FAU went to the Final Four. This is the coaching staff has moved on, the players have moved on, but it is going to be an entertaining matchup. I think it only helps that it's going to a good cause. So I wonder if this was talked about before KT Harrell left FAU.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I think it probably was, and it was followed through with after he and his head coach Dusty May left for Michigan. But that would have been an even cherry on the top, sweeter thing for him to get to come back home. But regardless, it's going to be a really cool game, really cool atmosphere, and all for a good cause, which Bruce Pearl we know is big about making sure he does things for a reason.
Right, and as it stands right now, it's a season ticket holder purchase first, and then what is remaining will go to that. That is going to be the 1st of November, which is the Friday before we're finally back for a Auburn home game. Since we're not at all in the month of October here for a football game, I won't get started on that in and of itself. I do wish KT Harrell was still here, because he's such a beloved figure in Auburn basketball. We've discussed in our Auburn Guard segment whether he deserves to be up there or not on that Mount Rushmore. But regardless of this, it probably was discussed back then. The fact is it's happening. It's unprecedented. I better go using that word again. Not unprecedented. It is not usual. But we're getting to see something pretty cool happen on campus because of Bruce Pearl, because of the way he likes to promote Auburn, utilize and use it for a good cause too. And it'll just get you fired up for a non-conference season that is going to be, if we haven't said it already, amazing. Tough, but amazing. I'm really excited to watch that happen this coming November, because it will be November 1st. Let's talk about our basketball ladies. Just a little fun note. They are now in one projection, ESPN bracketology, a number 8 seed in women's basketball. Now, it's way early. Way too early. But what have we seen from Coach Johnny Harris do every single year?
Yeah, she's gotten better every year. Made the play-in this past year. Probably should have made the tournament just in general. But she was awarded the play-in game against Arizona, I believe.
Yes, that sounds right.
And they fell in that game. But they have, like we've said, that is a program that has hit rock bottom in years past. And she has slowly but surely gotten better each year with beating bigger opponents, making the tournament, being contenders in the SEC. A fun roster this year with some new talent and some talent that's used to the conference play. So I'm looking forward to her group. It was cool to see them recognized at the game yesterday. And so that's a program that Auburn fans are starting to get more and more behind as they come more and more back to prominence as well.
One of the things that I think we always stress here in the Auburn experience is trying to value, obviously, the whole Auburn experience. This is one of those areas where if you're struggling in other areas to get on board with the progress or lack thereof, this is one of those places where there's undeniable progress and a trajectory that's heading in the right direction with our head coaching staff, the rest of the staff, the roster, and the production. And ESPN is already even seeing that already. One other small note, it's not small because of the significance of it, because we are celebrating still. We are the reigning national champions in men's golf, but superstar phenom, freshman winner of the Golfer of the Year award, has already racked up his first SEC Golfer of the Week award in his first opportunity. It's the first of many, and I guess you shouldn't be shocked that he's getting that.
No, Jackson Coyven is a stud and has already put his name with golfers in the past who've gone on to do great things at the pro level. He's already back on a hot start and for his sophomore year campaign. And I mean, only bigger things are left to come. This team's going to look to repeat this year for sure. I'm sure you heard it here first. I'm sure Jackson's looking to, as a runner-up in the individual NCAA national championship, that's something he hasn't accomplished yet, and I'm sure it's something on his mind. So looking forward to seeing where Jackson goes. And it sounds like it's off to a great start.
Anna Davis as well got SEC Golfer of the Week for the ladies as well. So that's a good sign that the women's program, who also made it to the end of the whole nationals tournament as well, and not the very end with the final two, but still to the end, is probably going to be doing some great things as well. So Auburn golf is still dominant if you were not aware of that already. Just as some final notes in Auburn potpourri, we always like to give updates about volleyball, soccer, the other fall sports. As we know, cross country is going on as well right now, but there's not much in that area at this moment to report. But SEC play begins for soccer with a tie.
Yep.
Very frustrating. I hate ties.
Gave up a goal for the first time. Gave up 2. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Look, it's hard. It seems weird to say this, and some might disagree. A tie is better than a loss, I guess, in the standings, right?
If your argument is on the scoring and the standings and all that, sure.
Yes.
But for me, no, it's not. It's actually
it just
worse.
feels meh. But I think they just got underway with Florida as well just now. So Auburn soccer is in SEC play and in the thick of it.
Yep, and volleyball as well bounced back after their first loss of the season up in Minnesota and won some more matches up there, but also went to Birmingham. And as of this moment, as far as I'm aware, it's just dominated as well. So if you're worried about a fall off after that first loss, do not be. Coach Crouch and his ladies are bringing it on the volleyball court for you. We're going to continue going live here from campus with our next major topic. We will talk about the football game, folks. This is Arkansas weekend. We're going to get there, but let's do some fun stuff first before we get into the bad stuff. Let's be honest, that nobody really wants to have to lament about all these things. So let's talk about the good things around this Arkansas weekend. And there are quite a few of them that we should discuss.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, you and I had a different agenda. We were going to talk about the Auburn Raptor Center's show, which I got to attend, and we will certainly do that on another episode. But we just got to talking about it. It was like, there's plenty of things that happened that we need to discuss around Auburn weekend. One of the big things from last episode that we talked about was the stripe out attempt.
Yep.
We knew there would be an attempt. I have to ask Mr. Scott today, was that attempt successful? What are your thoughts?
I was much more impressed than I expected to be. I walked in. I don't really remember how early I was into the game, but I walked in and the student section was already full. And I was impressed with the student section. I don't really know how that all worked. Was there a really planned effort by certain students to sit in certain places? But the orange, the white, and the blue were all pretty defined. There was some blue trickling into the top of the white. We could probably touch that up for the Photoshop with the aerial photo.
I did wonder that with a couple of the shots released from official accounts. I was like, how much touching up did actually happen?
And there wasn't the top student section corner, there wasn't a ton of folks up there the whole time, but it certainly looked full in some pictures. Nonetheless, it was pretty impressive. I thought it actually looked really great. And I was very surprised, optimistically surprised. And I thought it went well as best you can. The one thing I did think about is thinking about my own Auburn college career, those ones that kind of moved to where you and I have said we liked to sit in college, the furthest left, I guess you can, if you're looking at the student section, probably more upperclassmen who know the drill and know what they're doing. So if they'd planned their orange out already, then that might have helped things. But overall, pretty impressive.
I will say that I gave the students a big shout out. Even when we first got into the stadium, before the rest of the stadium fills up, to see how they responded, I thought they did an outstanding job. Because let's be honest, we questioned the decision to give them all three colors to have to fill in.
It's not easy.
There was a small section of blue, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Or white.
That kind of gone into the white.
Yeah. So I was like, this just doesn't feel like it. Unless you're providing T-shirts, it wasn't going to work out. The rest of the stadium, it was about what I expected. You could clearly see it. I've got a couple of images and video footage where you can clearly see it. And I thought, honestly, the power stripe showed up better when the sun wasn't shining. And from my vantage point.
Agreed.
But all in all, this was not a disaster. We continue to underestimate the Auburn family and the Auburn students, and y'all continue to prove us wrong. Been burned in the past.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
why I'm going to continue to be skeptical always.
I will say, I think that, what could help is maybe we don't place so much of an emphasis on every single game and then focus really hard on this one. Everyone knows what game is going to be this one. But if you're the first time, I think it probably garnered another year of it. So we'll see if it comes back next year. I'm with you about the sunlight. I think if we get that for a night game, it'll pop. The lights will be on and it'll pop. Mm-hmm. So pretty impressive.
And my only other suggestion, should we rotate it and mean the stripe be north to south? Or, the other, whichever way.
Yeah. Like
end zone to end zone.
Like it's coming across the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. it'd be far less orange, right? Because, well, I guess it'd be because you're going over the field. But
I just think that would be easy. Now, listen,
more blue.
We talked about the students being the concern, maybe just because they had so much to pull off, but they pulled it off. So I guess really my point is moot at this point.
Sure.
Power stripe worked out pretty well. Let's talk about probably some of the more exciting news of this week for a lot of people. And I will be honest with you. Some of you gave me heat about making this statement, but I'm going to make it again. Barstool Sports is not my cup of tea, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be everybody's cup of tea, but I do value a lot of what they do. In fact, Dave Portnoy, they have a large following. Dave Portnoy does one of the few things of theirs that I really enjoy is his pizza reviews. We're going to talk about that. But Barstool Sports comes to campus, definitely not to the level of College Game Day,
right?
SEC Nation, which we talked about earlier. But it was actually a pretty good showing from what it looked like. I was not able to go out there since I was under the weather and could not risk walking any further yesterday. But the crowd looked great. They had some great things to say about their visit. They did say they enjoyed being here more than Tuscaloosa, whether they meant it or not.
Maybe playing to the crowd a little bit.
Right.
But, I think a lot of them said it was their first time ever in Auburn, whether on professional capacity or not. It looked like they had a great setup over kind of on the north side of town above campus, but everything looked like it was good. It looked like they enjoyed their time. It was something that I don't think a lot of people really knew about until right the week before. I think we might have mentioned it last week, but it was all kind of came out last weekend. So yeah, really interesting, really cool. They have a very large following, so cool to see Auburn. It's town, it's campus, get that publicity. And then, like you said, they did some fun stuff too. Obviously, Dave Portnoy, the head honcho there, El Presidente, I think is what Stool Presidente, is known for his pizza reviews. So, of course, we all thought, is he going to Little Italy? And he did go. And obviously, you run the risk of him being very honest and very hardcore. He got a 6.6 or 6.4. 6.4 out of I believe is a scale of 10. That would be my guess. Yeah.
But I think the highest I have ever seen him give, and I do enjoy these a lot because he is very honest about these things, almost to a fault, is like maybe a 9 or
I think I've seen a 9. I think it was actually in Homewood, with local, my neck of the woods. But yeah, I think 6.4, it's okay. If you watch his video, I think he does mention if this pizza might be a little more appetizing if you've partaken in some adult beverages a little more, which, you know what, that's probably how Little Italy has stuck around this long.
But on that note, I enjoy the heck out of Little Italy.
But for someone like him who's probably tried,
thousands.
I can't even possibly imagine how many pizzas, good or bad. It's not a bad number.
Everybody knows the rule: 1 bite. He's had thousands and thousands of those.
One bite. That's all he does.
By the way, quick critique. He says 1 bite, but then he takes like 5. I don't get that.
I don't blame him either. I don't know how you have their whole pizza and only take 1 bite,
But on that note, he did go to Toomer's drugstore and try the Toomer's lemonade, and he did a lemonade review, and he gave Toomer's lemonade an 8.8. I think that's a solid score.
It's pretty high. Toomer's lemonade, I feel like, gets a lot of flack from people saying that it's just like it's just the thing to do, but it's actually not that good of lemonade. I've loved it forever. I think it's fantastic. I do like sour things. I think it is a little more sour than most lemonade, but an 8.8 from a northern guy is pretty good on some Toomer's lemonade. So I think that speaks highly of that. That tells me all I need to know if they got the whole of the Auburn experience this weekend.
Now, if he had tried the strawberries with the real strawberries in it, that would probably
be pushing 10.
That would we'd be close. We'd at least be in the 9s at that point. That's just my opinion, but obviously that's my favorite. He did try the original, and that's what he gave it. Some final notes from the weekend that we definitely want to mention. The band had a brand new show, which we will have up for you guys as soon as Kyle can get well and get back to getting to work for you. The Welcome to the Jungle show, which was a tribute to the student section, to the jungle. So we heard Welcome to the Jungle. What else did we do?
Boogie Nights,
which was a very interesting choice.
We heard Freebird.
Now that one, I think when everybody heard that, I was like, okay, now we're good.
There was lots of singing, which I don't know if we mentioned. I love that we play Freebird right before the Eagle fight now.
I'll be honest with you. It's not a just this year thing.
I think it might. It's recent. But it's really been playing an emphasis on it. But yeah, it was a great halftime show. Super neat. Even brought out the Fear of the Jungle banner that goes over the student section in basketball games. So pretty cool. Pretty cool ode to the student section for the Auburn band.
They formed the Eye of the Tiger.
They did.
And the Eagle and many other formations there. So, for one, I don't know if this was like a placeholder in between their last show and what they're going to do on the back half of the season.
Sure.
But it was a really good show. obviously pandering to your audience, the jungle, the students,
Obviously.
but it was done very well. So we'll definitely have that up for you guys a little bit later. Lastly, swag surf. Whether you love it or you hate it, I think some very interesting figures out there that we know have some hot takes on there who had a very heavy hand in their involvement. That was not War Wagon, by the way, if you can hear that on the microphone. That was just somebody who clearly wants you to know that they're a man. Anyway, swag surf had a little bit of a surprise. There was teased that the artists that do that, and I'm going to show my squareness here because I have to read it off the page here. Fast Life Young Stars came and did a live performance of swag surf in the fourth quarter. You hate that it was for this game, which we'll talk about. But this is another one of those cool things that happened this weekend.
It was pretty cool. They ran out, kind of did a live rendition of the song. I think everybody was kind of wondering what in the world's going on right at first. Like you said, pretty poor timing.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of people say that, like, oh, could not be worse. Why are they doing this? Well, when you've got a script, you got to stick to it.
These marketing you've paid money.
You've paid money. These marketing people plan these scripts out weeks in advance. So that's the price you pay, kind of being in the industry. But it was for what it was. It was pretty cool to see. That is something that Auburn has done better than most places when they play that song and done the swaying. And so to see the artists actually come and see that in person. I'd love to hear what they thought of it afterward. But Aubie, what were their names? Young Staz. And,
oh my! You thought I was the square one?
Fast Life and Young Staz.
Staz. I think it's Staz. Come on.
Me.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
My white dad life is showing right now.
I am so uncomfortable right now. I can't even do it. That squirrel right now. That squirrel right there on the tree is so uncomfortable. He's trying to get away from you right now.
He is eyeing us. This is the full Auburn experience now with a big old squirrel out here.
By the way, squirrels on Auburn's campus are ridiculously fast, as we found out from a few Auburn
fat
that used to chase these. This is what you get here on the Auburn experience. Not just commentary about the game day experience, but the wildlife that lives on campus. So that is what we experienced outside of the game. That's all the good stuff. There was plenty of it this week. Let's move into it. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about another therapy session. If you missed our post-game therapy show, once again, it was a hot one. And I don't mean the weather. It was interesting in terms of perspectives. I will say that much. I'm trying to really choose my words because I'm trying. They're very. How about this? You go. You tell us. You tell me what you want to start with talking about the football performance, Auburn versus Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a game a lot of people going into it had no idea. There was a bunch of ways this could go. It could go really great, could go really bad. I think everyone was landing somewhere in the middle of I don't know what the heck is going to happen.
Right.
Both teams that are kind of don't have an identity, looking for one. All the storylines around it with T. Will coming back as defensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator.
That got lost for me in the game. Leading up to it was fine, but that's a big, just
hardly mentioned, right? Overall, I think we come out of this game seeing that from Auburn's perspective, there are still so many more questions on the offensive side of the ball than you hoped there would be going into the year. Yes, after Cal, yes. We're 4 games in a regular season. That is a third of the way through. And I don't feel like there are less questions than when you started. There are far more. And so that's an issue. And I think that it was evidently shown when you look at everyone thinking Hank Brown can play the rest of the way out here, good or bad, and see what you've got. Well, you weren't able to do that because it was still very bad. And Peyton Thorne comes back into the starting lineup, and is able to finish out the game. I think that you really have to look at the question of if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. Well, right now you don't know if you have any quarterbacks because both are throwing interceptions at a high rate. Both are turning the ball over. Hugh Freeze was very frank about that in the post-game and halftime interviews. It's unfortunate that so much of the blame gets put on each of the quarterbacks individually. But I think you have to be honest with yourself and look back and say, Peyton Thorne probably got way too much blame in the beginning when it was time to move to Hank Brown because they're just issues that make them a little more comparable together than apart. And it's in my opinion, I think you have to ride with Peyton Thorne here on out. I don't think it does any good to Hank Brown to keep throwing him in when he kind of showed the youth and his readiness. This is Peyton Thorne's last season playing college football. I'm not saying that's why he should be given the reins the rest of the way.
And some people are making the opposite point on that.
Correct. Yeah. But this is, I think you can look at this season as there's a lot of ways it could go.
Right.
And it's just, in my opinion, your best chances with Peyton Thorne with what's on the roster. Is that a high probability of a good chance? Probably not. But it's the best chance I think you have. There's just issues on this team on the offensive side of the ball that are going to take a long-term fix and not a short one, unfortunately.
I'll give my take further. As if you missed last night, you probably already understand where I'm coming. Or if you missed, you don't know where I'm coming from. But if you watched it, you understand where I'm coming from in this. I'm going to just look this directly in the camera right now. If you are not giving credit to Peyton Thorne for giving you an opportunity to be in that game, then you are being a petty, awful example of an Auburn fan. I have no problem saying that, and I'm not saying anything that's incorrect. If you cannot give Peyton Thorne for singularly last night for keeping you in the game, you are being a bad example of an Auburn fan. Period. Done. Over with. You don't have to like him. You don't have to think he's the best option for us, but you need to give him the credit and the respect that he's due after that, because he deserves that. I actually am not in favor of switching back and forth. I did not like that they switched to Peyton Thorne. This not because I didn't want to see Peyton Thorne out there, because I hate switching back and forth. As you said, when you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If you got three quarterbacks, you got even less quarterbacks.
Negative.
It's a frustrating thing that we're in. I don't think people are able to rationalize and keep their emotions in check and expectations in check enough to understand the context of what the collective, not all of us, but we are a collective because we are the Auburn family, wanted, I'm going to say it, in 2020. To make a decision to move on from something that was consistently putting a competitive product out there and what that caused us to falter. This is not a reflection on Hugh. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, this is not a reflection, I'm going to say an unpopular thing, on Harsin either, even though he was part of the problem. It's never the symptom. It's always the disease. And if you can wrap your mind around where we're at today as a program, whether it's about quarterbacks, offensive line, defense, it all goes back to that decision in 2020. And that's the last thing I will personally say on this show, at least.
No, I mean, I think you're right. When it happened, there were a lot of people who were concerned about what the domino effect would be, and we all like to pile onto them because they were the easy example. But would Auburn become Tennessee in the decade of despair from that? And 5 years into the decision, or 4 years into the decision, it's certainly looking not good. You don't feel like things have progressed. You're already on your second coach from that decision. Certainly things have progressed in this regime and recruiting and outside things, but the on-the-field product has not advanced in the way you want it to. And it did not have to be this way. Outside of that, it is. We are where we're at. And I see a lot of people calling for Hugh Freeze to be fired already. I frankly just think that's ridiculous. I think that, and outside of what your personal opinions are on Hugh Freeze, your coaching opinions are on Hugh Freeze, there is not a recipe in college football to stay. Yes, I know the transfer portal's there. Yes, I know that you can refill your roster as quick as you'd like. There is not a recipe for success in college football in this era where you are firing less than 2 seasons every time. It does not work. It's quite frankly ridiculously irresponsible financially. But it's just.
Are we still paying Chiswick?
We're probably still paying Tuberville.
Are we still paying Petrino somehow? I don't know.
I feel like we might. So it's just, I don't see that as the right thing to do at all whatsoever. Now, are there serious questions that need to be answered?
Absolutely.
I think so. I think that's totally fair to say. Hugh Freeze has built his college coaching career on developing quarterbacks, and it hasn't happened here yet in the way that you like. So, you got to do what the rest of the year is. You got to finish it out, whatever happens. I think there'll be big questions going into the next year, season 3 in this offseason. But certainly what we saw versus Arkansas for the Auburn offense is not good. I will say, to get back to the game itself a little bit more, I know there were a lot of 3rd and long conversions given up by this Auburn defense.
Third and Auburn?
3rd and Auburn. That's right. Given up by DJ Durkin and this Auburn defense. And I told a lot of my friends this. I said, I want to be mad at the defense for those instances.
Right.
But I just feel like I can't be, because in a similar way to Peyton Thorne, Auburn is not in this game without the defense. Right. That they're frustrating and they make a lot of dumb decisions, to be frank, but they've been able to bend and not break for the most part. Arkansas was giving up 600 yards or putting together 600 yards of offense in their games coming into this game, and Auburn held them very much in check. So much to where they made a quarterback change for a series and then went back to Taylon Green. It's frustrating that the offense wasn't able to help them out. And yes, the 3rd and 19 and 3rd and 10s and 3rd and 12s that they're converting regularly are frustrating. But the defense continues to be somewhat of a dim bright spot on the season so far.
And listen, folks, if you look at everything, not just in an emotional state of one game and even one few moments or one half in time, you will see a flip-flopping of the offense is terrible, the defense is terrible. Mm-hmm. Folks, this is a program trying to find its feet. I won't go back into it, from decisions that were made long ago, and it didn't have to be this way. Sorry, you took my line. I was going to say it.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's very little to be super upset about in the defense other than the 3rd and longs, because they held, as you said, they held an offense in check, a dynamic player in Taylon Green. What did we say that you just didn't want? Well, I said this. I don't know if you had the same opinion. Do not let him beat you through the air. Outside of one ridiculous throw, that it was exactly the same as those New Mexico throws, where he just throws it up on a whim while we're nearly chasing him down.
It just in there.
And of course, your safety. Look, we can all criticize and say the safety should never let him get behind him. But when you see that going on, you're supposed to kind of shade that way to help anyway. So it's easy for people to slip back behind you. Right. I'm not a safety, or I did play on the scout team once, but so people will dog me for that. But folks, defensively, we did an okay job. I think the only other thing, unless you have other things from the game, I do want us to kind of go back to a little bit about questions around Hugh Freeze. What I want to point out to you is, and I think most of you have probably seen this on X. Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah.
A former quarterback who decided last night of all nights was the time that he was going to air grievances that only about a year ago, I believe.
Former Ole Miss
quarterback, Bo Wallace. Dr. Bo, is that what they called him? I don't know. That was some weird thing. I just remember that being the weirdest thing when they were there. Really tried to lead a charge of hatred towards that, and when you'll find things that are wildly inconsistent. And so what I put out on my personal thing, this is not E2C network stuff, but I think it's important for people to be able to tell their stories and to speak openly about that. But it's also equally important for us to not question. I do mean question, but I think to be a healthy amount of skepticism about why are these things coming out now, as opposed to then. Is it because this is your moment to do something, or is it because you have a legitimate gripe that needs to be addressed because something wrong was done to you? As I said, those things need to be discussed, but I think some of y'all took the bait and aren't asking enough of those questions. You're also being led astray by some people who do not like Hugh Freeze for things outside of football, and those things deserve to be talked about too. However, they've been waiting for this moment. Do not fall for it, because you will get pulled in to what is hate that has just been festering and waiting to be oozed out on this subject.
Yeah, and regardless of your opinions on any of it, personal, off the field, on the field, whatever, I think we're all in consensus that X is probably not a great place to have those discussions. Have those in person if you can, have them direct one-to-one if you can, but this is the worst part about college football to me is that there are so many opinions that can get just thrown out there with no recourse. And Kyle and I have talked about this before and talked about it with you.
Yeah, we're obviously he and I think a lot alike, not always, but a lot alike. And so we've talked about this before.
And just, I think it's very important to remember that it's just a game and that things people say have real effects on other people's lives. They do in their families and personally. I think that's all that needs to be said.
So, in kind of summation here, Arkansas weekend, the game, terrible, awful. The stuff around it that we've already discussed actually had some good things there. The thing is that the sun rises again. and you have another game next week that
Correct.
we certainly are going to talk about in great detail. So whether you are upset about the game, whether you're upset about something somebody said on X, it's still great to be an Auburn Tiger. And that's
Yep.
the main thing that we remember. Because, by the way, we're live from campus. And
On a beautiful day.
on a beautiful day. And if you haven't figured out, that is the library behind us, the alumni. Well,
That's
the
the
Auburn
hotel. That's
Hotel and all that
where
stuff.
Heyday Market is, where one day we'll hopefully be coming to you live from there.
Wow, he just said it live on the air right now. All right, folks. Well, we appreciate you tuning in for episode 94 of the Auburn Experience podcast, live from the campus of Auburn University. Hope you all enjoyed us. Hope it sounded good, looked good, all those good things. Give us feedback. Keep up with me on X at Loomis24. Where can I find you?
Yeah,
That was not gunshots, by the way.
at Austin G. Scott. Let us know how this sounded, how it looked. Maybe there's more in our future.
Maybe there is. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.